I'm not even supposed to be driving. I ain't even got a license. Why am I driving? Somebody gave me a car I wasn't supposed to drive, and I thought I could drive it, and
No,
I
girl.
drove it into the wall. So I said, you know what? I'm going to hand over the keys to the divine driver.
Creating a life that is authentic, bold, and purposeful takes audacity and truth-telling. It takes disruption. That is what it means to be a professional troublemaker. Professional Troublemaker is a best-selling book, this podcast, and frankly, a life habit. And I'm your host, Luvvie Ajayi Jones. I'm here to bring you perspectives, deep dives, and conversations about culture, business, life, and leadership. And welcome to Season 5, which I'm really excited about. This season is dedicated to the glory and grit of entrepreneurship. 2023 was my toughest year as a business owner, and there was a point where I was 3 months away from being bankrupt. So let's talk about it. Let's get really real about running your own business, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Because while people love to glorify entrepreneurship, they often leave out the tough lessons, the failures, and the pivots that have had to happen. My hope after this series of episodes is that you feel more informed about what it truly takes to run a purpose-driven business. You feel less alone about all the times you messed up, and you walk away knowing what to avoid so you don't make some of the same mistakes I've made. Let's get into it.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Professional Troublemaker. And today is a special episode because the tables are being turned on me, where I am typically introducing people and interviewing people and being the one that's controlling the conversation. Well, my producer Tish, Letitia Barriola, who y'all have already seen in the Fawn episode, was like, I want to interview you because I have questions. And I was like, if you got questions, other people got questions. So I am handing over the interview mic to Tish. I don't know what she about to ask me. I don't know what she about to say because I was like, don't even prepare me. Just go ahead. Let's just have a good conversation. This should be good. Welcome, Tish.
Yes. Thank you for having me. For some context, yes, there are some questions I want to ask, and there's like a layer that I want to add to this conversation that is a little maybe deeper than where we have gone in the previous interviews. I want to weave in some discussions about faith, about trust, about feelings. There's a lot to go into since the beginning of this season. And I want to start with this idea of what exactly are you trying to build? Because we've learned about some of the story about the journey to building this company and managing and running and CEOing. But when you think about the vision for this company, what is it?
My vision for the company is more around the why. And even today, I was thinking about that. And I was thinking about my why. I was thinking about my company's why. My why and my company's why are parallel. And I think it's to create work that gives people courage to take bold and transformative action in their lives that will also leave the world better than we found it. So I say it in that way because the how that I do it might always shift. But I want to always be clear what we are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think we're doing. That's what I think I'm doing. And it's so interesting. I actually feel like asking you a question already. And I'm like, dang.
Oh,
well,
it's a conversation.
As the episodes have been going along, and because you've also been learning me in real time with the episodes, what made you go, no, I got more questions?
Yeah. You know what it is, Luvvie? It's because I know that you can go be in Chicago, or you can go get a lake house, and you can turn out books every year, a couple times a year, and you can go have this other life that doesn't even require all of this. You know what I mean? You're outside of what you're doing in this for the book academy, the podcast and blogs and the newsletters and the hiring and firing and out. You don't actually have to do this part. And when I think about all that you're going through to build this company, people got to remember she's a 4-time New York Times bestselling author. And a lot of times authors are just that, just doing that is enough.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I have questions, because that's why my first question is, why are you doing this? Why are you building this?
You know, that's actually really fascinating. I don't think I've actually ever thought about it like that. Like, you don't actually have to do this.
Like, you could just live off of and be successful
Yeah.
your author career and your author and
Yeah.
speaking career. Like, it could just be this.
Facts, actually. Actual facts. Huh. You know, I've actually never thought about the fact that I don't have to because I felt like I have to. Not necessarily from a place of coercion of like, dang, I gotta do this thing, or even a place of like, I want to be a boss. Like, let it be known that I'm not doing this for the CEO title of it all, because to be quite honest, I'm actually removing that title from my bios, from LinkedIn. I want to call myself a founder. I think there's a lot of ego in the CEO of it all that we carry. It's not that. And it's not that I want to be famous or known. It's definitely not that, because honestly, out of my journey, that part is one of the most uncomfortable parts. Being known by more people than I know, right? That the fame part has always made me uncomfortable and has always scared me about any of this journey. So it's not that. And it's not that I even want to be the loudest person in the room. It feels like a deep assignment, actually. I think the work that I do feels like an assignment, that when I'm not doing it, I feel like I'm not doing something that is meant to be done, right? Like, I am somebody who, and I have been this person since I was little, where like, if I walk into a room and I see something off, I'll try to fix that thing myself. Like, oh, you left a towel on the floor and it's not even my house. I'll pick up the towel and try to figure out where it needs to actually go. So I think about my work as that, like living in a world where there's just so much that I feel like needs fixing, and I feel like it's a group effort. I'm literally the person who in the group project would put it on her back. It's a toxic trait, but also it's a gift, because I'm always like, how can I help? So I think the work that I do as a writer, as all the different things, because I do 1,000 other things, is from a deep conviction. Like, if I'm not doing it, am I doing my part?
Which is why my second question, I had a feeling it was going to go that way. And I want to know, so then you do believe in like divine assignment, or some call it a calling, right?
Yes.
So what is your general sort of like philosophy on a calling? A lot of people say I'm called to do this, or I feel called to do this. People feel called to leave one career and do another, or they feel called to this amazing work, or they feel like God has literally given them a personality and skills because they are supposed to and called to do something. So you believe in that?
Absolutely. Because I think my life's journey and my story proves that that's the case. Because I'm telling you, I wasn't trying to be nobody writer when I was growing up. Like, not for real. I wasn't trying to, like, my career as you see it is not something that I strategized and was like, this will happen. Like, I really feel like I was called to write because it truly is a gift of mine, like an actual gift. And why I say this is, growing up, English was always my favorite subject. I was in honors English classes. I'm the person who would write papers the day before they were due, A+, and meanwhile, I barely tried. But beyond that, when I really started writing outside of school, and when I started writing my blog, and the ways people spoke about my writing, and I didn't believe them, because I was like, just this little thing I just did? Like, it was effortless, but it was good.
Yeah.
And I think about how we're often, like, when that happens, we will doubt whatever that thing is because it came too easy. For me, writing has always been easy. It's always been easy and good. Like, and some people can sit there trying to write the same thing I tried and they can't do it. And it took a minute for me to recognize this, because I would write something that I'd write it in 30 minutes and somebody else would read it and be like, my God. And I'm like, meanwhile, I'm like, what? So I think even for, if you're not somebody who believes in divine gifts or assignments, I think it's hard to believe that some people really are given certain gifts that others don't have. Like, there are people who have the gift of dance where they can, in a minute, with their bodies move, and you're like, how did that? I look at people like that and I'm like, that's a gift. So I'm like, oh, is that the way people look at my writing? Oh. But I also think That's a divine design. We all have different gifts, because imagine if all of us were amazing writers. Gosh, that's boring. If all of us were amazing dancers, if all of us were amazing, we're all supposed to use it collectively as this human group project. I actually think our gifts, whatever it is a gift, because we're supposed to be a part of a community project where some of us can do certain things. Some of us are hunters, some of us are gatherers, some of us. And for me, I think this divine gift I've been given of writing, you know what's funny? I'm a good speaker, but I'm a much better writer. Much better writer. And I really firmly believe that God gave us our gifts to use, like truly in the most basic ways. Even if you're not a professional writer, even if you just write poetry for yourself or you write your thoughts down, I think that still matters. But for me, I do believe in divine assignment, and I think it's tied to our gift. I think we think too hard about it, right? We will doubt and question it to death, and we won't use it. Meanwhile, God is probably like, yo, but I chose you specifically to have this particular gift so you could use it in service of other people and the world, but you're not using it because you're sitting here wondering whether you have the gift.
There's so much freedom in that. And I think,
Yeah.
like, he actually, he wants you to have some fun. Like, he wants you, because the thing about your gift is that you enjoy giving it. A gift is something you give to the world, and then it's tied to what brings you joy. So I feel like God has given us permission to be the salt of the earth, to be light, to decorate this place, to restore this place, to bring our gifts. And it's supposed to be enjoyable, right? Like,
well, we question it to death. I think half the human experience that is suffering and struggle comes from the constant doubt about what is and what feels true. So I know there's so many people, and people ask me this all the time. How do you find your gift? How do you find your purpose? How do you find your assignment? I actually don't think it's to be searched for. I think it's just to be obeyed. You know, for me, for a while, I spent years questioning this gift, whether I was actually a writer. I had a hard time calling myself a writer for years because I was like, nah, my gift doesn't look like that person's gift, so it can't be my gift. Because I was like, oh, I can't call myself a writer when Toni Morrison's a writer. When Maya Angelou's a writer, no writers. Me, I'm just a blogger. Meanwhile, what I didn't realize is my writing gift is different from theirs, and that's okay and still is valid.
That leads me into this, and we actually started talking about this. I was like, stop, I'm going to ask you this question. So have you ever had someone like speak something over your life, or like a spiritual experience that sort of predicted or prophesied who you would become? Because I feel like, especially in the Black experience, we get a lot of that, like whether it's in church or whether we just have a moment where like we feel like God has told us something, or grandma says, I had a dream about you, or something like that. Or even like real people who are prophets or something who say, you are called to be this. So did you ever have any kind of like spiritual experience like that?
I've had many. So one thing about me, God don't play about me, and I'm realizing this more and more.
You've had many. I feel like I'm shocked at that.
I've had many, like multiple people.
Like strangers,
across,
even?
whether I'm in strangers, whether I'm in church, whether I am seeing a medium, the vision of greatness has been spoken on my life so many times by so many people at so many points of my life. And you know what's funny? For others that would fist pump, for me, it always scared me. Like I've had people be like, man, I saw you walk in here and such a big light came in with you. I've had people go, whoa, there's so much greatness in your life. Like, I see it. I've had somebody walk up to me at a political convention and tell me your grandmother's anointing is on your head. Like, this person has never seen me before. I don't even know what they look like now.
Oh my God.
I wrote it in my phone when it happened. They were like, your grandmother's anointing is on your head. And I've always been scared by greatness because I know greatness also comes with a lot. It's like heavy is the head that wears a crown. And you know, we talk about generational curse breakers and the chosen one. And I am one of those. And knowing that those assignments are usually big, right? But one thing I was told about that, when I talked to a medium who one of my friends had sent me to, she said, you are chosen for greatness and you are generational curse breakers because God and your ancestors trust you. And it was such
Wow.
a compliment, such an affirmation. Like, they trust that you will get the work done. And I was like, whoa. So I try to not think about that. I try to just think more about what feels true to me in this moment, not even in 5 years, not in 1 year. I think that's actually one of the gifts of my career and why I find myself where I find myself. Because even when I was afraid to call myself a writer, I still wrote. So even if I was afraid to use the title, I still obeyed the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I didn't know where writing was going to take me, even where I didn't know where my check was going to come from, even when I was broke and had to borrow $4,000 to get my wisdom teeth taken out, the one thing I think I have done well that I now give myself credit to is I have simply obeyed what felt right in that moment. Whatever came from it, came from it. So whatever greatness was shown to me or told to me was not anything that drove me. I just simply did what felt true, and then doors kept on opening. So it ended up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy by just me obeying what felt right. Nobody has ever told me, like, do this thing and this other thing will happen. In any of the prophets who saw me or whoever walked up to me, they were never giving me like strategy. Like, they were just like, we just see great things for you. And I would just swallow it down and be like, oh, Lord, that's scary. And I'll just go write my blog post that day and just move in the same way I was moving. And I feel like I was rewarded for the obedience.
Being rewarded currently, even today. How does your faith then shape how you operate today? Like, or how does it translate into just your everyday, let's put it in a business context, right? Where you believe there's a higher power. We've established that, you've been called to do this work. You know that greatness resides in you. You know that you've been trusted, which is so special, to carry out a mission. So when you sit in that chair with your red pumps in the background, when you show up every day, how does that translate into how you do work?
I will tell you, I had a crisis of faith last year. Not that, I feel like last year I took faith from my business. I removed the faith from how I moved, and I feel like I suffered for it. Yeah.
Oh.
And I'll get back to that, but I'll talk about today so then I can get back to that. I can't remember what episode. I think it was the Fallout episode or the Crumbling episode when I couldn't get out of bed for a week.
Yeah.
After another disastrous moment where I'm like, what is happening? And how I just had to sit in the crap of it all, and how surrender had been coming up for me. Today, I am actively taking my hands off the wheel and letting go and trusting God to drive the car. Because when we go back, so last year was a year where I tried to use my own brute force to get outcomes. I tried everything in my power. I was not praying regularly. I was definitely not reading the Bible regularly. I had lost trust in God's promises, and I was not even being present. I was running past myself. I was constantly trying to fix things as opposed to just stopping, surrendering, and saying, listen, this is not mine to hold. This year has been a reawakening for me, because if you don't trust God and you don't trust you don't have trust in anything. Everything is weird. Everything is fragile. Everything is tender. What do you lay on? And this is not to judge anybody who doesn't trust God. Listen, everybody's faith. For me, and I even wrote about it in I'm Judging You. My chapter on faith in that book was about how, for me, faith is an anchoring, because without it, I'm not even sure how you could get out of bed when things don't make sense. Faith brings you back to saying, you know what? It might be crazy right now, but consider this the storm before the calm because it's part of a divine design you might not understand, but it will unfold. So today, I'm actively trying to be really intentional about showing that I trust the divine plan. That even when things get rough, whether it's my business, whether it's the fact that, I might not have made as much money as I wanted on a certain launch, whatever it is, I have to say, you know what? It's okay. This is part of a grander divine design because God ain't never let you down. So he ain't gonna start now. Where as of last year, I was like, okay, Luvvie, let's go. It's me. It's you. It's me. Let's figure it out right now.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
from a place that scarcity that I was operating from was because I wasn't operating from a place of faith. I wasn't operating from a place of divine guidance or really recognizing that the assignment includes tough seasons too.
How do you think you got to that place? Because I think, where you become distant from God or distant from your faith, especially for ambitious, like you don't even have to be an entrepreneur, but if you're just someone who's just got like big dreams, that can sometimes be in conflict with faith. And I think a lot of us can relate to waking up and being like, oh, when's the last time I actually like checked in? Because I'm out here like, So how do you think, like, if you were to think back before the crumbling, was there anything that kind of like just you started getting further and further away from what anchored you?
Yes, adulthood, traumas, triggers. So I started going to therapy April 2017. What forced me to go to therapy was I had some backlash moment on Twitter, right? When I started therapy, it's like pulling a thread that then just never stops being pulled. And I think last year was a culmination of, last year, honestly, was a stick being thrown at my head that it was time for me to transform how I had been operating personally and professionally that is no longer serving me. I don't find it to be a coincidence I'm about to turn 40 in 6 months and that all this crumbling, unraveling, and transformation happened so close to me turning 40 because I think 40 is such a significant number. And also divinely, it's actually considered also a transformation number. I feel like God was like, listen, you can't be going into 40 operating like you operating. So let's mix this up just a little bit. Because I know you stubborn. I know you stubborn. You don't listen that quick. So it's going to take something big for you to be like, oh, I got to change something big. And I really feel like between therapy, between all the crumbling, it was like the perfect storm of what makes you understand that how you've been operating, mindsets that you've had are no longer serving you, show disaster. I think, as I reflect, because Fawn even asked me this January when she was like, so what lessons you think you're walking away from 2023? And I remember when she asked me this because I was standing in her kitchen and I said, you know what? It's to be determined. I said, I'm still too close to it. But I was like, I know. I know. There's a divine lesson here outside of even the business lessons that is more important, right?
Yeah.
Like that is more important. I think it is transformation. I think, we got to get really, it's so cliche. But you do have to get uncomfortable before you realize that the old shell don't fit you no more.
Yeah.
Like it has to almost choke you for you to finally be like, let me go look for a new shell because this shell don't work for me no more. And I think that's what happened.
So really and truly, I think the phenomenon of this season has really been about the vulnerability and the honesty that you have had about the details of stuff, not high level. We've talked details, right? So I wonder, and I know that you are like, you're a generally honest person. Some of this stuff, I mean, we're talking about money, we're talking about like all kinds of stuff. Was there at any point as this became public that you felt, I don't know, not embarrassed, but did you ever feel like really kind of vulnerable? Like, dang, I have this reputation. Now I'm out here talking about, you know what I mean? I had to fire everybody. I lost money. Did you ever have like a moment of that?
No.
I knew you were going to say that because It hasn't felt like it has bothered you one bit.
No, not one
People
bit,
do this in the
because
dark, Luvvie. People don't do this
I
publicly.
know. I've been told that, and I'm like, for real?
We are in an age.
Yeah.
Think about Instagram. Think about how we present ourselves to the world, right? Entrepreneurship, boss chick, CEO. I mean, we hear more and more. I mean, 20,000 last week, or like
Yeah.
there's like this image that people feel like they have to uphold, especially in entrepreneurship. So for
Yeah.
you to like buck that system and be like, actually, everything went wrong. I think
Mhm.
we should discuss that a little bit more, and why it's so easy for you and maybe why it's so hard for everybody else.
Y'all know I be talking about being a professional troublemaker, and a lot of people might think like it's about disrupting rooms, but I really think it starts with disrupting ourselves. And this podcast is called Professional Troublemaker, so who better than me for me to disrupt? And this season's commitment for me has been tell the truth as clear as you can tell it, because that's the assignment. I didn't come into this season expecting much, by the way. I didn't set big goals for this season. I wasn't like, I'm going to do this other thing's going to happen. I just said my assignment for this season is to tell the truth about what happened last year with this beautiful community of people. I have not been afraid of what happens when I tell that truth, because I know my name stands up in a way where I don't have to worry about that. And what I mean by that is who I have been, who I have proven myself to be when people are watching or not watching, in public, in private, how I have built my business with integrity, the relationships I've built. My name stands up even if you try to find ways to diminish it. And I've known that. So I'm like, I can show that I had a tough year. It does not make me a terrible person. It doesn't make me a terrible business person. And frankly, I actually think in the hero's journey of my life, it is a necessary story that must be told. Because one of the things that people have been reflecting back to me this season has been, oh my gosh, we didn't know you were in the struggle like that at all. Throughout last year, we thought you were killing it. You showed up, you showed out, you did. And I said, I know. Because even in the crumbling, even in the fallout, I still was excellent. I still insisted on my standards. I still insisted that I said, in this moment is when I got to show who I really am. Yeah. Right? So that I even talk about how even as I was firing people, at no point do I regret any of the ways that I approached anybody. At no point do I regret or feel like I mistreated anybody. At no point, even in the crumbling, did I feel like I cheated anybody. Even as I'm looking at $0 in my bank account or about to, I still gave people equity and fairness. So I think moments like this, who we are in the good times prepares us for the crisis moments. Because even if I wasn't excellent last year, people would still give me a break because I'm usually excellent, right? So in the telling of the truth of this episode of this podcast, first of all, I also don't appreciate the the fakeness that happens on social media. I hate it. I don't like it. I'm repelled by it. I don't like the putting on airs that people do. I don't like any of that. So I'm like, I can't get on this podcast and now be like, guys, I can only tell you a little bit. Yeah. Because it also will go against my values. But it hasn't scared me, actually. What's interesting is I've actually been really heartened by the response. The response has let me know and affirmed to me that I did the right thing.
Y'all out here writing like paragraphs about this episode, about this season. Paragraphs. Yeah. It has set a lot of people free. It really has. Yeah. So this may be like a little messy, but I know some people are thinking this. Did you have any, like when you had to because I've even been around, let's just be real, working with some team members that you've had to let go. Mm-hmm. And it's all very quiet. It's nothing dramatic. It's like they're here, they're not, we're moving on. Did anybody ever like cuss you out or get angry with you or tell you about yourself? Like, was there ever drama when you let these people go?
No, none at all. And I even had somebody apologize to me after the fact.
Really?
Yeah. Because here's the thing. And I know people might have ideas of who they think I am because of my social platforms, which is why people get surprised when I say I'm an introvert. And I'm like, no, for real, I am. I am the boss you would expect me to be, in that I'm straightforward, I'm direct, I'm honest. But I'm also the boss you might not expect me to be, in that I would apologize to people who work with me if I don't show up properly. Actually, you might already apologize. You might actually expect that of me. Like, there's no real surprises. Like, I think anybody who works for me gotta already know who I am, because none of it is hitting. And even as I interview you, one of the things I say to you is, look, can you deal with direct feedback? Because you're going to get it. But you're going to also get the understanding human who will never tell you, no, you can't go to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's telling my team, have y'all taken lunch? I'm the one that's like, yo, look, if you finish your work by 2 o'clock, I ain't got nothing to say to you.
Okay. Was that ever uncomfortable for you? And like, do you have a thing that you do and prep yourself to be able to do it? You know?
I don't like firing people. And you know what? Contrary to popular opinion, even though I am a professional troublemaker, I don't love tough conversations. I just find them necessary. But how I do them, I write bullet lists of the points I want to make, and I make them. And then I'm like, we're going a different direction, or your work has not been at the standards we need, and we're letting you go. It's not enjoyable, but it's necessary.
Yeah. I need to get the scoop on how that went, because
But nobody's shocked when I fired them too. That's the other piece.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
People don't get shocked when I fired them, because I've already given you way more chances than I should have. In fact, you're probably surprised you're still here. And that's my issue, right? Like, that's my toxic trait. One of my toxic traits that my therapist told me was like, you don't have to wait for people to blow up your house to let them go, right? So when I fire anybody, it's not on some like, whoa, we ain't see that coming, because I've given you warnings too. Like, I've given you warnings before this firing came, because my first thing when somebody makes a mistake is not to fire them. My hope is I actually don't have to fire them. Because I hate starting over. I hate the fact that I'm like, oh, I didn't get that decision right.
Yeah.
So by the time I fire you, you've already been told multiple times you are messing up and letting the team down.
Yeah. Can we talk about quitting for a second? Because
yes,
you didn't quit. You are still here. It sounds like you came close, but I want clarity around, like, did you ever consider shutting down the business entirely? And I want to ask, when should people really truly consider dissolving their business?
One, I never considered shutting down the business. And I think these are the moments that we must obey what feels right. At no point did I consider shutting down the business. At no point did it even seem like an option. And it's not because I didn't seriously go like, oh man. I mean, I was hating everybody and everything in the moment, but I knew this was not shut down time. I knew this was a valley.
Yeah.
Now, to the question of at what point should you quit? When nothing energizes you about it.
Yeah.
So even in the midst of people messing up and not showing up right, and me being stressed out and being mad that I was paying payroll, I was still so energized by my work.
Yeah.
I was still so energized by the fact that, like, when we got 5,400 copies of Little Troublemaker in the hands of kids around classrooms in the country, I felt so anchored in purpose. And I started getting notes from teachers being like, oh my gosh, like, our students, this is their first book they can take home that will start their library.
Yeah.
So with that, I can't quit that. Like, no, I can't quit that. That felt too good. That was still energizing my whole heart. And then when I launched Book Academy and my students are like, oh my gosh. So I'll even give you an example. We had a Book Academy session the other day, and somebody said the Book Academy and being a part of the first cohort helped me get through chemotherapy.
Oh my goodness.
My heart. She was like, and
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh, right? That's not a business to quit right now. No.
Yeah.
Like, how can I quit that? Like, that's the impact that the work is doing. And that's the thing, is like, the work is still needed and still necessary. If the structure around it does not work, change the structure, right?
Yes.
But if the work is still important, the work must continue. But if the structure is not, change the structure. So whether it is if you love the work that you're doing and you're with a company right now, but it's killing you softly because the company doesn't respect you, doesn't mean quit the work. It might just mean move companies.
Yeah.
It might just mean maybe start your own company. When you stop a company, and I have stopped a company before, I had a nonprofit called the Red Pump Project. The work was still important, but it stopped energizing me, and I no longer looked forward to it. And what made me stop, so the Red Pump Project was my HIV and AIDS nonprofit. We raised awareness and advocacy around how HIV was affecting women and girls. Because every 47 minutes, a woman tests positive for HIV in the United States. I founded it in 2009 after I met somebody who had lost 20 cousins to the epidemic. Deeply important to me. I still had my full-time job. I was still blogging. And now I was executive director of a national nonprofit organization that was doing work we started doing work in 20 states at one point. I dialed it back down to 5. We ended up partnering with the U.S. State Department.
Wow.
Over the years, we would do fundraisers. We would do HIV kits. I remember an email we got of a woman who said she had just she's been married for 10 years, went for her annual checkup, found out she's HIV positive, has never had sex with anybody but her husband. And we were the first people she was telling. And I remember that night, I was like, what made me quit that important work? Not because the work became less important. I just stopped being energized by it. But I still went on 2 years further, even beyond that, because it was hard for me to quit what I knew was important. What made me ultimately quit is the work is important, but is it important for you to do right now? Can you give it the energy it deserves? That's the other question to ask yourself. So even if you know the work is important, can you give it the energy that it deserves? And it was so damning when I could not say yes to everything. I couldn't say yes to none of it. And I was like, you know what? Tough decision. And I talked to my co-founder, Karen Watkins. Hey, girl. And I remember being like, I think we're done. I think we've done good. But I think some assignments also end.
Yeah.
Right? So every assignment is not a lifelong assignment. Some are seasonal assignments, and you just have to know when that season is done. I think we attach lifelong assignments to seasonal stuff, just like we attach lifelong friendships to seasonal friendships. But I think this is where the obedience of just listening to yourself, because I think God will speak to you, so then it ends up becoming you. Know when to say it's done, and that's not a failure. That's not a failure. So I'll even give you an example of how I currently, today even, just got the epiphany of an assignment that's done for me. Today. And I actually wrote a piece about it in between, before I got on this session with you. In 20 minutes, I wrote this 1,000-word piece that I'm going to post on my newsletter. And it's that my assignment as a blogger is done.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big deal to me because I have held on to this assignment way longer than I should have, because I did not want to let it go. Because I had it'd been such a big part of my journey that it's been hard for me to let it go, even though I have let it go for all intents and purposes.
Oh,
Let me get a little bit clearer for that. AwesomelyLuvvie.com, I started in 2006 after I graduated from college. And it's this blog that chronicled, I wrote in there about pop culture, television. One day I might be writing about why pink Starburst is the best. The next day I might be writing about the stages of what happens when a Black person gets killed. The day after that, I might give you a Scandal or Game of Thrones recap. That blog led to a book agent finding me in 2014 because he read my blog and reached out to me. Signed with him, got my first book deal in 2015. First book comes out 2016. Instant New York Times bestseller. Changes my life, as in I called my speaker's agent. So I got a phone call at 5:03 p.m. on September 21st, 2016 that said, hey, Luvvie, guess what? Your book is on the New York Times bestselling list. And I screamed and I called my mom and my sister. At 5:15, I called my speaker's agent and I said, hey, by the way, my book hit the Times list. And he said, we just doubled your fees. In 10 minutes, my fees went double. I went from $7,500 for speaking to $15,000 to now the number that I am, right?
Which
changed
is,
my life.
Go ahead and say it.
My speaker's agent gonna be mad.
Is it 6 figures?
I have gotten a 6-figure check like a rapper. Absolutely. Yes. Definitely. Got off a stage and got a 6-figure check before.
That's amazing.
Yes, like, yes. So this blog was such a catalyst to my journey and has opened
Wow.
doors that open doors that open doors. But here's the thing. In 2016, when my book hit the Times list and those doors that opened that I didn't realize were open, and I started walking through them, they put me on the road. And I started, my speaking business exploded, okay? And then the year later, my TED Talk happened.
Yeah.
Another moment that instantly jacked up my prices because that TED Talk had 1 million views in 1 month. I have not been able to blog regularly since 2017.
Wow.
7 years ago. This number 7 is really significant. But 7 years ago, I have not been able to blog because I was on the road and I felt so guilty and I felt like I was leaving my audience behind. I felt like I was leaving people behind. But I'd be like, yeah, sometimes I can still blog. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
Instead, I wrote 4 books in 8 years. All of them hit the Times list. I became an international speaker. I'm now a book coach. That blogger piece is still the title I've been holding on to. That is still in my bio. It's in the second paragraph of my bio, and my bio is organized by priority.
Wow.
But this thing has been the second paragraph of my bio, even though it had expires for 7 years. So today, before we got on this call, I don't even know what I was looking at. I think I'm auditing my website right now. Like, actually, I'm in a life audit moment. So this conversation is so right on time. I'm auditing my websites. I'm auditing my systems, auditing myself. And as I was auditing my website, I don't know where it just came from. And it was like, that piece of you is done. Like, you can take awesomelyluvvie.com off your bio now.
Wow.
Because that's not even active. It's not you anymore. It's a coat that doesn't fit no more. It can still live. It will still live as an archive of my writing. And if I feel like writing something random today about something random, I can always go to Awesomely Luvvie and do it.
Yeah.
But that place is not a place I need to tell people to be visiting still, as if it's new. You can just go read my old stuff. You're no longer a blogger. And it is time to move forward and look forward without that hanging on your ankles. So, yeah.
You know what thought came up while you were saying that? And I'm thinking about the nonprofit and I'm thinking about the blog and I'm thinking about my own career, leaving as a TV news anchor and quitting and how that was my identity for so long. And then I, move into entrepreneurship and so on, so on. I think that it's like, it has evolved, right? So when you described the blog, you're doing that still every day. You're just doing that on Threads.
Yes.
Like, so I think like a part in the nonprofit, that special work that you were doing for for vulnerable people, like I can almost guarantee that will show up again in your lifetime, just in like a different form. It evolves.
Yeah.
And I think that you allowing things to grow into like a different form is actually really beautiful because at the end of the day, it's all extensions of you. All extensions of your skills and your gifts. And I don't think those things die. Like we may shut down of it, but like they don't go away forever.
They don't. And I think there's full circle moments for everything, right? Like, so for me, my writing now, my best writing outside of my books is in my newsletter.
Yeah.
So my newsletter that goes out every week, when I tell you the responses I get to that newsletter, the ways people are like, you are being God's voice in my life. So for those of you who are listening to this, who are like, yo, I really do miss your blog. If you have not signed up for my newsletter, that's where you really should be at. Because honestly, I think my evolution as a writer, as a thinker, as a voice, as a human being is being chronicled in my newsletter now.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about what's on my mind. I'm talking about culture, leadership, business, growth. Sometimes I'm talking about pop culture in there because in my rants, because I have rants, reflections, recommendations. It's reminding me of the old blogging days, funny enough. I'm ending up back in people's inboxes on a regular basis. It's not on this platform that's super public. It's just in my newsletter and 50,000 people read that every week.
Yes.
If y'all are listening to this, go ahead and sign up for the love letter. It's LUVVLETTER.com. So yeah, the evolution of my work, sometimes we're afraid of the evolution and it's scary for me to even think about like removing Awesomely Luvvie from my bio. It's literally been in the second paragraph. Like my bio is like, Luvvie Ajayi Jones is a 4-time New York Times bestselling author, speaker, and book advisor who thrives at the intersection of culture, leadership, and business. She's written 4 critically acclaimed books and has contributed to 5 anthologies. And she writes, this is the part that I'm removing, and it's such a big deal to me. And she writes about culture from a humorous, critical yet humorous lens on her website, awesomelyluvvie.com. No, it's the 20-year blogging veteran writes on her website, awesomelyluvvie.com. And I'm removing that. But I think I'm going to replace it with the 20-year marketing veteran. Because that actually is what I am, and it really embodying in this moment. The 20-year marketing veteran uses her superpower to help people write best-selling books as founder of the Book Academy. Why am I writing my bio live?
Yes, you better write that down somewhere. We'll run this back because I'm
going to run it back.
It's evolving into that. So good. Okay, we're finished. We're wrapping up. A couple more questions. Who do you admire in business right now?
Oh.
Name one. You probably have several.
Tashonda Brown Duckett. That's my big sis / mentor. She is the CEO of TIAA. And besides her financial brilliance, what I admire about her, Tashonda is, I think, the only remaining Black woman CEO of a Fortune 100. And Tashonda's shown up in her braids, in her Gucci suits, in her Ankara suits, like it's not, you can run the biggest financial portfolio in the world and still be this Black woman who is embodying herself. And I think it's really significant for right this moment. And as we talk about truth and transparency, and Tashonda's been on this podcast, y'all should definitely check out that episode. It was freaking amazing. We'll link it in the show notes. But we talk about truth and transparency. And I think truth, there is no bigger truth than being who we are, no matter what room that we step in, that we're not code switching ourselves. And she's in rooms where she's the only woman and only Black person. Okay. She's in billionaire rooms. And this woman will show up with her braids in a ponytail, in a high bun, like it's nothing. And I really do admire that so much because she has so many reasons to change, to shift, to code switch and shapeshift herself into whatever she thinks the room needs to be. And I think we need more of that. So when you ask me about this podcast and how I'm able to tell the truth, because I look at people like Tashonda.
Yeah.
You know, what do I have to put on the line to tell my truth and show up as me when Tashonda's putting that stuff on the line every day that she shows up as herself and probably fighting battles we could never fight. So T is absolutely a shero of mine in that way.
On that note, can we just have a moment for the Fawn interview?
Girl.
Can we pay tribute to the Fawn interview for just a second? Can we have a moment of silence for the Fawn interview?
Listen, when we recorded that podcast, because again, I'm trying to be more present in my life, I instantly knew that podcast interview was the best interview I've ever done. And I said that. And I said, this interview is going to change lives. And y'all know I don't lie. And I do not overpromise. And already it's been proven true. The messages that we have gotten, the messages that Fawn has got, because her and I have been sending each other screenshots of people's messages. I'm trying to tell God be all up through it.
When she talked about just her, when we talked about the obituary, just in general, I think like the time just stopped. I don't think the world has ever heard anything like that. And actually, what's funny, Luvvie, and this is so funny, on your Instagram, someone was like, "I call BS." Okay, so for context, Fawn, if you haven't listened, go listen. We will link it in the show notes. The best podcast interview I have ever heard, and I'm just
it is an award-winning
honored to be even sitting in the background watching them do this. So Fawn basically says that she's not living for her obituary. She's talking about legacy. I don't care about that.
Let's put the clip right here.
I know a lot of people like to write their obituary. Cool. Give me a blank sheet and sprinkle my ashes over some river somewhere and let them flow. I don't care. What I care about is well done, my good and faithful servant.
Listen, I have never heard that. But on your Instagram, somebody was like, "I call BS." And you say you can call it all. You can call BS all you want to, and she still wouldn't care.
She still don't give a damn.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that comment. Sorry that you missed it.
Yeah.
The point has left a voicemail and said it is sorry that you missed it. Because her whole thing is, I do not care what humans think. I only care what God thinks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
for your goofy self to come on the thing, to my son, that called BS. Girl, who gives a damn?
Call it.
Who asks? Who cares? Call the BS. BS is not going to answer. Girl, I was like, this is why we be missing points and hustling backwards. But that interview was everything.
That was
Fawn
so
is
good.
everything. Wait, let me give y'all an update too. Fawn's book, Love and Whiskey,
Yeah.
was on the New York Times bestselling list for 3 weeks straight, and it's still on the business bestselling list. So I just need y'all to understand that woman wins. So the fact that she's so God-led, God keeps showing up for her. And I think
Yeah.
for me, it further affirmed all the ways in which oftentimes our jobs, our number one jobs, is to just trust. Trust God, trust self, trust purpose, trust soul, just trust. Because we get rewarded for the trust and the work, right? We trust and then we do the work.
Yeah.
But if we do the work without the trust, we're not believing that what's possible is actually possible. And I think energetically, we're affirmed in that, and then it doesn't go well, and then we go, oh, see, this is why I didn't trust. So then we end up in a cycle of mistrust, not realizing that the initial problem was the first thing that you didn't trust, which was you and God, right? So that, honestly, I say that because I am seeing that all over the place, that the people who dare to trust God and self win over and over again in ways we cannot explain.
Well, that basically sums up my last question, unless you want to add to it, which was, you've shared a lot of business lessons. What are you walking away with as a spiritual lesson? And I think you may have just answered that right there.
I guess I was knowing. Yeah, I think that's a big one. But I think also the word surrender
Oh, yeah.
is a big lesson. And I'm still learning what it means to surrender. Day to day, I'm still learning what it is to release the wheels. But I've released the wheels as much as I know how thus far. That's a practice that I'm working on honing, is surrendering to the plan. Even when I don't know what the plan is, all I can do is do my part. That's it. Like, once I do my part, I can't do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I try to do more than my part. That's the problem. That was actually, and I feel like that was 2023's lesson. I spent a lot of the year trying to do more than my part because I was trying to save people from themselves. I'm over here trying to make sure I'm doing this person's job for them because, listen, if it crashes and burns, that's a data point. If you did your part and that person didn't do well, let them go, right? If you know you did your part and your company is still crashing, maybe it's outside of your hands. Maybe it's the economy. Maybe you need to pivot something. As long as you do your part, that is all you can do. And I think those of us who are type A control freaks try to do our part and other people's parts. All the parts. We try to play every part in the play. We the understudy. We are the crew. We are the main actress. We can't do all that. We can't.
Yeah.
So in this random moment, yes, I remember I even said this to you yesterday. I said, listen, I stopped worrying about revenue like I was last year because I said, I am coasting on God's promises.
Yeah, you did say that.
That's my answer right now. If anybody asks me a question, how are you? I am coasting on God's promises because God gonna guide me. Okay. He got me all the time. And, the surrender moment looks like not always having the answers too. So I'm just like, all right, let's just get back to what we know to be true, which is do what feels right and do your part in it. Release the rest of it and let God handle it because you can't have two drivers to a car. You can't. So I said, listen, I'm gonna let you drive the car. I've been driving the car, crashing against walls. I don't even know how to drive for real. So I don't even know why I was supposed to be driving. I'm not even supposed to be driving. I ain't even got a license. Why am I driving? What kind of car? Is this a stick shift? Because I think I got the wrong manual. I was like, you know what happened last year? Somebody gave me a car I wasn't supposed to drive, and I thought I could drive it, and I drove it into the wall.
You
So
wrecked
that
it.
didn't work. So I wrecked it. So I said, you know what? I ain't gonna wreck it. I'm gonna hand over the keys to the divine driver. I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna let him drive and I'll take a nap. Okay, I'm gonna catch up on sleep. I am going to take care of myself, eat some good snacks. And I think that's my job in this moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, Luvvie Ajayi Jones. Thank you for your time today on Professional Troublemaker.
Listen, it is wild to be on the other side of my own podcast. Shout out to Tish for the good questions. You know what I mean?
I said, I want to interview you. I said that early on. I said, I want to talk
You
to
did.
you. And you.
You did. And I was like, that should be good. Oh, wait, you haven't seen my t-shirt today. I got to show you my t-shirt.
She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. Proverbs 31:25.
Period. You know what's funny? I wore this t-shirt today, forgetting that we were even doing this call.
Perfect.
I actually did not even intentionally pick this out because of this call. I actually just picked this out. And I was like, oh, snap, we're doing that call today. Oh, well, it's a message.
Perfect.
It's perfect. It's a message. It is aligned. And I am definitely hopeful for the future. I do laugh without fear of the future because the fear has not served me when I have had it. And you know what I realized too? I wrote Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual, my book, I wrote it 4 years ago, actually. It came out 3 years ago. And now more than ever, I'm realizing how much I wrote it for me.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'm actually going to do myself before the summer is done is I'm actually going to reread that book. I'm going to reread my own book with fresh eyes. I haven't read that book in 4 years since I turned in my last edits. I have not read that book since I turned in my edits. And I feel like this is a season that my own book is probably going to minister to me. So I'm actually going to reread Professional Troublemaker.
That's going to be
good.
And I know
That's
you'll
gonna be
talk
really-
about it as you read it because it's going to be good.
Girl, I'm going to be like, this girl was preaching. This girl was preaching. She was giving a word. Hold on. I'm about to grab a
You're
copy
going to be
real
talking
quick.
yourself. Okay, she's reaching back to get the book right now. Okay.
I'm going to grab a copy. And honestly, I have 7 books on my nightstand right now. I'm going to put my own book there. And I am going to highlight the heck out this book myself.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Yeah. I always talk about I write my books for my past selves. I guess I wrote this book for that future self, the current me.
Yeah.
And that's a gift. So if y'all want to join me to read Professional Troublemaker and get it ministered to all of us, feel free. ProfessionalTroublemakerBook.com. But
Do I send a book club?
people have asked me to do a book club for a long time.
Do I sense that just like an unofficial, doesn't have to be nothing major, but like just see what people say?
You know what? Okay. You know what? All right. Okay. I actually think this could be really cool.
Cool.
If we do a Professional Troublemaker book club. Wait, Tish, are you going to read it with us?
Yes.
Okay. So
course.
maybe we could do this. And I think it would be cool to even do like a Zoom, like a book club meeting. We should do like a book club meeting.
I have done that before for books. I will do that for a good book. I will show up and I will give my opinion. We share pages and chapters. What's your takeaway?
Oh, I think we should do a Professional Troublemaker book club. What if we do a book club and like create like a schedule for people to follow, and then we end it with like a Zoom, and I'll be on the Zoom.
Or I almost feel like there needs a place where we can write stuff. Like, you know, when you read something, you're like, you gotta like put it somewhere.
Yeah.
You have to think about like a group place where we can be like, I don't know if y'all here yet. I know we're all, and I just read this.
I've really thought about doing a book club because I just love talking about books in general. I mostly don't even I don't read my own books after I write them often, but I actually think this is really cool. I've been thinking about a book club for years because I always recommend books that people should read.
You may get something out of our devouring of the book and reading the book and what we're getting out of it. You may get something out of that. And I know you've heard that over the years, but imagine having just like a group of women reading it together and being like ministered to and feeling stuff is coming up and you're able to witness that in real time.
So, okay, I think what I'll do is while we decide on what the logistics are, if you want to be a part of this Professional Troublemaker book club, which that sounds like that's a great name for a book club also, this could actually be the start of a real book club. Like I've been thinking about doing one for a long time because I have so many book recommendations that I'm like life-changing books that people should read that I would love to discuss and geek out with. And I have been thinking about this for a while. So this is one of those moments. You just also pointed out something that I have been trying to obey, which is what are the God whispers that are being sent to you?
Yeah.
I think there are times when the ideas that you have, when they're validated by somebody else, they're God whispers,
Yeah.
and you should follow them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been happening a lot recently with my ideas that I haven't told a lot of people about. And then somebody random will bring it up and be like, and I'm like, oh, I've been thinking about that.
I'm like the confirmation queen. Like, if you're hearing it from me, Luvvie, and if you've heard it before, go ahead and count this as confirmation. God be doing that with me.
Wait, say more.
I don't know. I get a knowing about people often, and I'll mention something, and more times than not, they'll be like, "Oh shoot, just yesterday I was thinking I should do that." I don't know what it is. It's like maybe not prophecy, but it is a gift that I'm able to be like
a messengering. You're a messenger.
Yeah,
There's some people who are really like they're messengers and God's voice in the moments when somebody else might not be able to hear it or recognize it. And that's absolutely a gift.
And it's happened so many times where I'm like, okay, for real, if this is really the third time you've heard this and I'm saying it to you, like, I'm telling you, this is another God. This is him being like, yes, daughter, move in that direction, because he talks to me that way. And he brings people to me that does the same for me, where I'll be like, oh yeah. So if you're hearing it from me and you've heard it before, I'm probably like one of your last warnings to do the thing.
I am also a firm believer that sometimes the reason why we are not sleeping well is that there's assignments undone on our plate. Sometimes if you can't sleep well and you keep on finding that your brain is racing, I think it is from undone assignments. Like you're ignoring the major signs, the messengers, you're ignoring the obedience that you're supposed to be leaning into. So for me, whenever I can't sleep, instead of trying to force myself to sleep, I try to figure out what is the assignment that I'm either procrastinating on, ignoring, and that I need to move on. So, man, I feel like you just gave me one. Not gave me one, you just affirmed one.
How you been sleeping?
That has been on my spirit. I've been sleeping late for the last 5 weeks. I'll still sleep, but I begin to sleep much later because my brain has been rolling. Because I've been like, I've had these energetic downloads where I'll like write it down. Like my next book, for example, that happened in the middle of the night. And I was like, understood, heard, you ain't got to drag me on this one. So I'm also on assignment for that. But this book club is something I've wanted to do for a long time.
How much fun would that be? It just makes perfect sense.
It would be so fun.
Like,
it would be so fun.
You've done this before or yet. It's just, maybe it's just time now.
And there's so many books that I'm so ready to like let you, like for us to read together because they're life-changing books, like The Alchemist. I make it a point to read The Alchemist when I feel like I am on the verge of a big leap. And the last time I read The Alchemist was right before I started writing my first book. And then a week ago, I felt so compelled to read The Alchemist again. So I'm reading it right now. It's on my nightstand. Every time I've read The Alchemist, it's been right before a big leap. Every time. So I was like, let me obey this. You need to read this messaging. So yeah, I think you just served as confirmation on this thing that I've wanted to do for such a long time. That I've been like, let me find out. We about to launch the Professional Troublemaker Book Club.
Now, thousands and thousands of people are going to hold you accountable now because it's on this podcast. And you know how many people are tuning into this.
Y'all have to hold me accountable for sure. And here's legit, because I can't trust social media to make sure y'all see it. My announcement for the book club is going to be through my newsletter. If you are listening to this podcast, I need you to sign up for my newsletter because that is really where I'm going to be able to get you the message of how we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Whatever the logistics are. But this is a God whisper / yell because I've wanted to do this for such a long time. I'm even right now, I'm thinking about the logo in my head. Like I see it. And I also want Professional Troublemaker books, the imprint. Like we got things. We have things. So you know what? Professional Troublemaker is going to be the first book of the Professional Troublemaker Book Club.
Let's go, girl.
We going to make it happen. You got to get your copy. I think it's on sale right now too, because of all the summer book sales. But Tish, you have been, again, one of my prayers that I always say is let my helpers find me. And it is a prayer that I say whenever I am walking into a room, a new room, walking into a new season, about to take a stage. And it's a prayer with the intention of that whole surrender thing. We don't have to go chasing anything because it will come to us. All we have to do is receive. It is about being a magnet to blessings. And it is about making sure that whoever's purpose is tied to mine finds me and that we do that work together.
Yeah.
And I feel like you are one of the answers to that prayer that I said earlier this year. And I am grateful for that. And I am thankful for all the awesome things we're going to do together. Thank you.
Thank you. You already know how I feel about you. This is a mission. I am on assignment and you are part of my assignment. So we in this now. We're going to build this media mountain, however it looks like. You stuck with me. So here we go.
Period. It's so good. And Professional Troublemaker is so much better for it. And I'm so excited. So excited. And y'all subscribe. Okay. Let people know this podcast is where it's at. And I told Tish yesterday, and I said, I believe whether or not we win awards for this season, I believe this is an award-winning season of a podcast. I believe we have created something special with the content from season 5 of Professional Troublemaker.
Yeah.
I'm excited to do more. See y'all, subscribe, and Professional Troublemaker Book Club is coming, I guess. All right.
If you dig what you just heard and want to make sure you don't miss another episode of Professional Troublemaker, subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast fix. And leave a review. Let the folks know this is valuable content. You can follow me at Luvvie everywhere on social media, Luvvie. And if you love this podcast, you'll love my newsletter, The Love Letter, LUVVLETTER.com. That's where you go sign up, and it's my weekly note on all things culture, business, and leadership. Tap in all over, and talk to you on the next episode.